Welcome back to the Tony Style Show, where liberty is always capitalized. Due to the government shutdown, America now has a good look at the failing two-party system at its worst. America also can now see how much government we don't need. Doesn't it feel good to know just where we stand? You already know how much government we don't need. It's those big government morons out there that need this lesson. Let's shut down more government. Let's shut it all down. Let's shut down all the entitlements. Let's shut down all this nonsense that we don't need. Let's do it finally. Let's put these people to work. Now, the jobs report, that just came out, and it's showing an increase in the employment. I don't get it. But then again, it's because the numbers are off. There's a devil in the details there. It's the same devil that's been there. It's because the people have dropped out of the workforce. This shouldn't be new news to people. This is what's been going on for a long time. So don't believe the numbers. This is not hype. This is real. Get rid of these entitlements and force the people to do the unthinkable. Work. Pound the pavement. Start a business. You know, they say you can't start a business in this economy. I say you don't want to start a business in this economy because the entitlements and benefits will eat your business alive. It's their own fault. It is their own fault they can't start a business. Isn't that ironic? The big government handouts have made it impossible. Round and round we go. It's sick. This government shutdown is a good thing for America. I hope they milk this shutdown and shut down even more. I mean that. It sounds rough, but I mean it. I hope this shutdown gets us to the point of no return if that's what it takes to get this country back where it needs to be. The mainstream media is not reporting any of this accurately. They want to make it into a blame game. They can play the blame game all they want. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying what they're selling. You shouldn't either. What if this is the end? Think about that. Think long and hard about that statement. What if this is the end? What if this is what if another government shutdown is actually a government meltdown? Think long and hard about that. Your dollars are already not worth a damn thing. We're at the brink of paying more than half of our wages to a government who is now arguing over how to spend imaginary money that doesn't even belong to them. It doesn't belong to them. And the mainstream media can talk all they want about the blame game, but I'm not buying it. I'll tell you who's to blame. I know exactly who is to blame. I know. But before we get to that, before we get into the blame game, talking about where the blame lies, I got to tell you this. I'll give you a little insight. It's not the Congress. It's not the Senate. It's not the right, and it's not the left. But before we get into that, let's talk to Ben Swann. This man has a set of coconuts on him. I'll give him that. He left the mainstream media where he had a good, nice, cushy job and then went out to search for truth in media in the independent world. Ben Swann, Truth in Media, tell me a little bit about this project, because it's quite the undertaking from what I understand.
Well, it absolutely is. The idea behind Truth in Media is kind of revealed in the name. What we're really looking to do is cut through the left-right paradigm in media, because as you know, Tony, and a lot of folks out there realize, is that media today has gotten kind of enveloped in this left-right paradigm. Everything is supposed to be balanced. Well, when you hear someone say that news is balanced, what are they really saying? They're saying there are two sides to every story. What they're really saying is there's a left side and a right side, and that's not true. There are many sides to many different issues, and many times the left and the right are on the same side. So what we're trying to do is cut through that and really get down to the core of issues that affect Americans' lives, and talk about issues of individual liberty, and force media to really talk about things that break that paradigm.
Yeah, absolutely. And this government shutdown just shows exactly what we're talking about here. The way that two sides seem to not get along, and you have one channel saying that it's one side and another channel saying it's another side. So where exactly is the truth in that, in your opinion?
Well, I think, look, the shutdown itself, I think there is truth when you say the president, being asked to negotiate with Congress. Well, why is the president being asked to negotiate? Because at the end of the day, whether you like the Affordable Care Act or not, and millions of Americans don't, but millions of Americans also do, it was legally passed. It became a law. It was signed into law. The Supreme Court upheld it. And there is a process by which to remove something like this from the public marketplace and from public life.
Oh yeah, I'm with you 100%. And I try to see things like Barack Obama does, and that's a little scary. But bear with me. The way I see it, if I'm him, I'm sitting back in my chair and I'm hearing all these Republicans tell me that they're going to shut things down. Oh, we're going to shut things down. We're going to filibuster, and we're going to shut down the government and all this kind of stuff. You're not negotiating. You're not playing fair. But if I'm Barack Obama, I'm sitting back and I'm looking at the situation. I'm going, you know what? These guys, I've already passed this, and it went through the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. This seems fair. I don't have to negotiate with you people. We've already done what needs to be done on my side. How about you guys just give it a rest?
Absolutely. Well, look, and if the same thing were happening with a Republican president and it was a Democratic House and a Republican Senate, conservatives would be up in arms. How dare they be obstructionists? This is not the process. See, they don't even want to follow the law. And
Absolutely.
The Supreme Court's upheld it.
That's
Imagine
the gospel,
you take Obamacare and you make it instead into a gun issue, and you say the House is preventing you from being able to have guns. People would be furious. So that's what the left-right paradigm does, is it says, hey, if you're against the president because you're on the right, then you have to agree with what the House is doing. There's so much paradigm. And then, of course, by the way, at BzZS1.com, we have an article up about the fact that through all of this, you have Speaker of the House John Boehner and Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid secretly meeting for months to try to figure out how to keep subsidies for congressional lawmakers and their staffs.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
So when they say that they don't care, they're really on the same side.
They really are. And that's something that we need to understand. And I know my listeners, the Tony Style Show listeners, Mohawk Nation, they understand what's going on here. They see the two sides, and that we're just being stupid thinking that this is anything but a strategic ploy. And I don't want to get into the whole thing with that. I want to talk a little bit more with you, because we have a limited amount of time, about independent media, but this ties into this definitely. Where can independent media make a difference in this particular topic?
Well, one important thing to do is to not fall for the usual traps of, if Republicans are standing up to this, and they clearly are standing up to Obamacare and tyranny. They're not, because what some of them are attempting to do that, but for the most part, the lawmakers in Washington don't really care, because they didn't do anything to stop this in the first place. So what I think alternative media should be doing, and new media should be doing, is questioning this. If you as a lawmaker really believe that this law is unconstitutional, then one of the things that I think would make it unconstitutional, and certainly make it bad legislation, is the fact that you've passed a law for most of the nation, and then you've given lots of different groups an out. You've excluded them. You've allowed them to opt out of this particular law. So it applies to everyone except for whoever we decide gets special treatment. That's where alternative media and new media should be focusing. Is if we're going to talk about this issue, let's talk about removing the exemptions from Obamacare so that everyone is in this thing together. And if it's bad, then we get rid of it together. But you don't allow some groups to be in and some groups to be out, because now you've got the same system that we keep having problems with in Washington, which is that some people get special deals, other people don't get them. Equality of opportunity. Republicans talk about that a lot. Democrats talk about that a lot. This is a great example where there is no equality in this system.
We're talking to Ben Swann, BzZS1.com. Truth in Media is his project. Tell me, Ben Swann, I have a lot of questions for you. Right at this particular time, my big question for you is why on earth, with the great gig that you had, would you decide to say, let's roll the dice and see if this Truth in Media thing works out?
Well, I've been asked that before, and it's a tough question in some ways, because it was a good deal, and I was in a really great place career-wise, and it's very easy to kind of sit back on your laurels there and enjoy doing what you're doing. And it's a fun job. But I think for me, it really comes down to the fact that I think media is broken. And I think unless people who are inside that system start working to fix it, to restore the fourth estate, it's not going to happen.
Well, they seem to be letting you do what you wanted to do over there in Cincinnati. What's the difference between now and there? Am I missing something?
Increasingly limited. It was increasingly limited. So what was starting to happen was their focus was, we need to be much more focused on the local issue of city council and county commission meetings.
Ben Swann, thank you for being on the Tony Style Show. Visit benswann.com and check out what he's doing in Truth in Media. It's fantastic stuff. I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan of Ben Swann for a long time. You should go and check out his videos. He has a lot of good stuff out there. And the job that he left, it was cushy. It really was. You know, and I can relate. Before I decided to slum it here on talk radio, where the groupies are all 80 years old, I was living high too. But I decided, much like Ben did, that maybe people need to hear the truth, and there's outlets to do that on. And I'm going to keep on doing it until talk radio decides that I can no longer be here. And I'm thinking it may happen. I'm saying a lot of truthful things. And that's probably why Ben left. He was saying a lot of truthful things. And you just can't tell the truth in the mainstream anymore. It's not allowed. Everything's bought and paid for by corporations. They don't want that. Truth is treason. The mainstream media is not being truthful with you. I trust people like Ben Swann and Gary Franchi at Next News Network for real news. You should too. It's important. Mainstream media is playing the blame game. They can play that game all they want. I'm not buying what they're selling. You shouldn't either. You shouldn't, because they're lying to you. We're at the brink of paying more than half of our wages to a government who is now arguing over how to spend imaginary money that doesn't even belong to them. And all the mainstream media can do is play the blame game. And I'll tell you who's to blame. I know who's to blame. And I think you have a pretty good idea too. Maybe some of you are going to be blindsided with this, and I'll probably piss a lot of you off. And that's fine, because when it comes down to it, you need to know. I'll tell you who's to blame. I know exactly who it is. Now, before I show you where the real blame lies, it's not in the Congress, it's not in the Senate, it's not on the right, it's not on the left. As always, I have an answer for you. You may not like it, but I'm always going to tell you the truth. I'm not in the business of telling you what you want to hear. I'm in the business of telling you what you need to hear, and you need to hear this. Now, this week's solution is brought to you by Contemporary Analysis. Much like I use predictive analytics to predict patterns in political propaganda, Contemporary Analysis uses predictive analytics to find patterns in business data that you're already collecting, then exposes those solutions and patterns to figure out what will likely happen next. Now, I've used Contemporary Analysis myself. Trust me. I've used them myself in my own businesses, and they will be a game changer for you. Visit canworksmart.com for details. When we come back, I'm going to give you the answer to who's really to blame for this government shutdown. Stay right here. I'm about to freak your freak. You do not want to miss this. You are listening to the Tony Styles Show.